Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Monday. Hopefully you had a great weekend. So far, so good with the weather locally. I was over in Baton Rouge this morning, a little bit rougher over there with some heavy downpours. Even had a couple of tornado warnings out over the far eastern part of our state. But today we're going to talk about the tropics, and things are relatively quiet across the Atlantic basin, which is always good news. Nothing threatening the Gulf Coast at this point, other than a little low that kind of drifted inland on Sunday night, and that's what brought us some of the severe weather across parts of southeastern Louisiana during the early part of the day. We have partly cloudy skies right now here in Lafayette. Our temperature at 86 degrees, but it feels more like 93. I know it's October the 6th. I know we're dying for a good cold front to come through, but got a weak one that's going to get here late this week that'll cool our nighttime temperatures down just a little bit, but between now and then, it is going to feel a bit summer-like, pretty steamy out there today, and then things will get a little drier and staying warm for the midweek and then starting to cool down a bit as we head into the weekend. Looking at the traffic cams here across Acadiana, we are starting to see a little more sunshine. Had a lot of cloud cover on my drive back from Baton Rouge this morning, but you can see clouds are starting to gather, and I do believe we'll still see some scattered showers and thunderstorms coming up with the daytime heating. Most of this is going to be over the eastern half of Acadiana. So you live along the I-49 or the Highway 90 corridor and points eastward, you have a much better chance for getting wet this time around than you do out toward the west. Not a great beach day over in Orange Beach. The Pensacola cam is down today, so we start with the rainy Orange Beach. We've also got some showers in and around the area over toward Dauphin Island, some gusty winds coming in out of the southeast. Had some storms down over Cocodrie earlier this morning, but things have cleared out. They've got some sunshine there. And then a little farther to the west over near Galveston, you can see there's some sunshine there, but there will be a couple of widely scattered showers and thunderstorms. Waves and seas are a little bit on the high side farther to the east, but locally we've got winds out of the southeast about 10 to 15 knots, and seas today will be running about 1 to 2 feet. So here's a look at the radar. And again, locally, there's not a lot going on. We've got some scattered showers that are down toward Delcambre, New Iberia, and then kind of stretching up into central St. Martin Parish before crossing the basin over into Iberville. And then some of that lifting northward into parts of Point Capee. Now, areas over southeastern Louisiana that picked up some of the severe weather, including Tangipahoa Parish, right now is generally rain-free, but we've got some bigger thunderstorms coming in from the west. And this particular area got hit pretty hard with some heavy rains, kind of an area like that. Some of those areas picking up more than 3 inches of rain over the course of the evening hours, and a couple of them getting up 5 or 6 or so with some minor flooding. And then we've got some showers and thunderstorms that are starting to build here over Lake Pontchartrain, and those are going to continue to lift northward. Not a whole lot going on out to the west right now, and the satellite imagery kind of showing that low pressure area there, and you see that tropical moisture kind of wrapping around it like that. So that's what we're going to be seeing today, but this trough that's moving across the mid part of the country is going to yank that low northward and kind of pull it away that way. So rain chances will be going down over the course of the week, and we'll get a little taste of some of this drier air that's up here, but really the only change is it's going to make for us is some cooler temperatures at night. But there's still a pretty good shot of some moist air that's trying to pull around this. So again, most of the showers and thunderstorms will push over southeastern Louisiana. I don't think we're going to see quite as much rain farther toward the west. So that's where we're going 50-50 on the rain chance today. Eastern half will probably catch some rain. Western half of the region most likely won't. But the rest of the Gulf waters really fairly quiet. We do have a lot of rain down near the Yucatan, and that's here over parts of the Western Caribbean. Bit of a tropical wave kind of there, low pressure. Nothing that's looking too interesting right now, and it is going to be passing over land, so we don't expect any tropical development. But the Central American gyre can sometimes whip something up, especially over the Bay of Campeche. So we'll keep an eye on that, but not really too excited about anything happening in the Gulf, nor should we ever get excited about anything going on in the Gulf. We got a flare-up of some thunderstorms here over the eastern part of the Atlantic Atlantic. Again, that is not tropical in nature. Really, the only thing that we've got our eye on is this tropical wave out here. Sometimes along old frontal boundaries, you can get some tropical development, but just not seeing that right now. So really, the only game in town is 95L, which is out there in the middle part of the Atlantic. And it has a good 70 to 80% chance that it will develop into a tropical depression here over the next couple of days. And based on most of the computer models that I'm looking at, most likely this is going to become Jerry a little bit later on this week. So that's the next name on the list, Jerry, which would be the 10th named storm. So we are behind schedule. Usually about this time of the year, we've got 11 or 12 under our belt on average, and we usually finish with 14. As an average season. I know a lot of the forecasts earlier this spring were calling for 16 or more. Right now, don't think we're going to make that count unless we have some kind of a really robust October and November. Usually October brings about 3 named storms, and November about 1 or 2. It's about 1 and then 2 every other year. It kind of flips back and forth. Water temperatures are starting to cool down, though. Here along the eastern seaboard and out in the mid part of the Atlantic. Now, some of that probably has to do with Umberto and Imelda that were with us last week, but you can see that there's still very, very warm waters here over the Caribbean. So that's the place that we'll have to really monitor if anything kind of starts up with the Central American gyre and maybe kicks something off over the western part or of the Caribbean or maybe the southern part of the Gulf. But usually about this time, the tropical waves don't really come in from the east quite as robustly as they do during the middle part of the season. And at this point, it does appear that 95L that's out here in the middle part of the Atlantic is most likely going to work its way toward the Windward Islands, Leeward Islands, and then start to curve away as there's a lot of troughiness out here off the North American continent. So most likely we will see anything developing way out here in the Atlantic, probably staying in the Atlantic and shouldn't bother anybody. But at this point, there is a little bit of wind shear here on the northern side of 95L. It is forecast to move into a much lower wind shear environment, so that's why we think this will have a better chance for some development a few days down the road. So there's what it looks like right now on the visible satellite imagery. So you can see that we're starting to get some storms rotating around a center of low pressure. Not sure if we've got a closed center of low pressure there yet. A little bit too far out for the reconnaissance aircraft to go check it out, but it's way out there, about 10, a little less than 10 north, and it looks like about, about 36, 37 west. So it is way, way out there right now, and it is still several days away from the Leeward and Windward Islands. And we do expect, again, this to turn off toward the north, kind of rounding a ridge of high pressure. But I will say that the intensity models are pretty robust with this becoming Jerry and maybe even a hurricane farther down the road. Looks like about half of them keep it as a named storm, as a tropical storm. You got maybe about a third of them that are calling for a Cat 1 hurricane, and then the rest of the third is going for something a little bit stronger. So I wouldn't be surprised to see at least a Category 1 hurricane come out of that particular system here over the next couple of days. So let's go ahead and roll through a couple of the models, and we'll start with the Euro model. And you can see how 95L kind of blips on and off there and then starts to get a little bit more solid, I think, as it goes over toward the Windward Islands. But on this particular model, you can see there's a lot of moisture that's associated with this, but it's not really showing any closed center of circulation here toward the end of the week. So maybe the Euro is planning on something a little bit different and not really seeing it redevelop at all. Looks like a coastal low trying to develop there over parts of the eastern seaboard, but that doesn't seem to be anything to deal with that tropical wave that's currently out in the Atlantic. You see it kind of drifting there. See that low? And then it kind of disappears for a while, and then it looks like another low tries to develop down here over South Florida, and this looks like it's about Friday of this week, so farther down the road, and then maybe a low kind of rolling up the east coast of the U.S., so we'll watch out for that possibility. And as we get out beyond the 10-day period, notice the Gulf waters really nothing happening here, which is great news. That would take us all the way out until October the 16th. I know we're counting down the days to get to the end of hurricane season for sure. Let's roll over to the GFS real quick and go back to our starting point. And you see we've got 95L that's out here in the Atlantic. And as we just kind of forward this, the GFS kind of holds it together as it moves north of the Leeward Islands. And then you see it starts to get caught up in more of a trough and lifting off toward the north. Looks like that coastal low is also showing up here on the GFS, fairly similar to what we were seeing on the Euro. And then, of course, you got what would probably be Jerry here in the middle part of the Atlantic. We'll see if they Fujiwara at all. Doesn't look like it on this particular model, but we will kind of see low pressure kind of staying near the Bahamas and then moving off into the North Atlantic as well. But again, the good news is we're really not seeing anything here over the Gulf waters. Let's go ahead and roll it back again and check out the Canadian model. And as we roll through time, you got low pressure there over the Atlantic that passes north of the Leeward Islands, which is very similar to what the GFS was calling for. There's also that bit of a coastal low but near the Bahamas, lifting off toward the northeast, maybe absorbing the other one. And then as we get out to day 10, you can see there possibly could be yet another system developing out here. But the best news is there's really nothing to talk about here over the Gulf waters. Other good news, according to this, looks like maybe a bit of a cold front trying to come in from the west. Hopefully we can get something to really cool us down, at least as we get toward the latter part of the month. We'll finish off here with the icon, see what it has to say. Low pressure kind of moving there across the western Atlantic, very close to the Windward and Leeward Islands. And this also is suggesting a bit of a coastal low near the Bahamas, kind of lifting off toward the northeast. Now, this model only goes out 7 days, but it also is suggesting something back in the waiting in the wind back there to the west, kind of similar to what the Canadian model was talking about. So really the best news that I can say on here is there's just nothing coming toward the Gulf waters, which is exactly how we want to see things go. And we'll go ahead and finish off with the Google AI model. And as we go ahead and put this into motion here, we'll just kind of let it go. And you can see that most of the other models, including the Google AI, is calling for a tropical storm, maybe a hurricane briefly there. But again, we're going out to past day 7 here. So you're going to see that data kind of drop off, and some of the longer range models keep low pressure moving off toward the north across the middle part of the Atlantic. But again, the one thing I really want you to pay attention to is this. Completely void of any tropical activity all the way through. Looks like we're going to go all the way through about October, about the 24th, I think is where this is going to go to. So you're really not seeing a whole lot out there in the Gulf waters. This goes out 15 days. So we've gone all the way out to October the 21st. So pretty nice there. According to the models there, at least for the Google AI and the rest of the models, they're all suggesting a nice quiet Gulf for the next week to 10 days. But again, don't let your guard down because we are only here just past the beginning of October, and we do have significant amounts of activity until we get to about 3/4 of the way through the month, and then things really start to drop off into November and December. But we usually see about 1 to 3 named storms on average during the month of October, and usually 1 or 2 during the month of November. And part of the reason why we get a little more concerned, even though the activity goes down in October, some of the development zone is a little bit too close for comfort there over the Western Caribbean and the Southeastern Gulf. And occasionally those can drift in our direction. We've seen that happen before. Coming up on the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Delta, which developed, I believe, down in the Bay of Campeche and then rocketed its way off toward the north and moved across the Acadiana area. It was in and out pretty quick, but again, it was a hurricane that occurred on October the 10th, and we had hurricanes that were in the Gulf during the month of November last year. So don't let your guard down just yet. Can't breathe a sigh of relief until at least we finish the month of October. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics, and if you do, please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and also turn on those notifications. Remember, you can hear my forecast daily on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. You can also catch me occasionally over at WBRZ Channel 2. I was there for Tune In this morning from 5 to 9. I'll be back there on Saturday at 10 a.m. And Sunday's show starts at 9 a.m. And then I will also be there for Tune In next Monday from 5 to 9. And I believe I might even be doing the noon show that day. So hopefully you can join me. If you don't catch us on television, there is a link below in the description for a live stream. And whenever we're live, you can click that and you can join us. So I'd really appreciate the visit if you want to come visit over at WBRZ. Also, don't forget to follow my social media pages both on Facebook and X. And thanks to everyone who subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Have yourself a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you on Tuesday morning.